Okay, the project that I'm going to do is a lesson for practicing the B and V sounds with Spanish speakers. The reason being is because these sounds only really have one sound in Spanish in the L1. For example, móvil, spelled with a V, but it's pronounced with a B, móvil. So this is often transferred over when speaking English. So for example, love often becomes lab, because they try to place the V with a B sound, or they tend to overcompensate. For example, one of my advanced students described Gracia as being Bohemian when she meant Bohemian, so this can cause a little bit of a breakdown in communication. These are both described as being voiced sounds by Underhill and Kelly. The difference, the physical difference in place and manner, once students can see that, will help them a lot. For example, the B is a bilabial plosive, where we're using the lips to make the sound with a complete block of air, therefore you can't hold it, B. Whereas the V is a labiodental fricative, okay, which does not have a complete restriction of air, and it's using the teeth and the lips to make the sound. So physically it's very different, okay, and students, once they can see it, should help them. We're doing a minimal pairs activities to start off with. We're ending with just any words with B or V. As I'm aware, Brown, for example, thinks that minimal pairs are not as helpful, but I think it's a good way to scaffold it, to get them to hear the difference in sounds. So we started with a running dictation in our advanced conversation class. Students were given a story that had minimal pairs, bat, vat, bet, curve, etc. This gave me the chance to hear how they were making the sounds, how they were pronouncing it, and see what errors they had, and also got them used to the words that we were going to be using later. Once they finished and it was all correct, I got them to elicit what they thought we were going to talk about, what they thought the lesson would be about based on this text, about the minimal pairs and the differences between the B and the V sound. Once we'd established that, I explained to them how to make the sounds. I showed them physically how to make the sounds, and we corally drilled the sounds. Then I elicited the minimal pairs, we wrote them on the board and added some extras, and then we practiced making the word sounds, and we drilled this corally again, and then they were able to drill in pairs. Then we moved on to a game called Vest or Best, and depending on which group they were in, if they heard vest in the sentences, they stood up, or best, they stood up. This contained logical and illogical sentences, so students were listening for the correct sounds, not just listening for context. So this was checking their receptive skills. Once I did this, I gave this to students and they were practicing the sentences in pairs, and I monitored that. Then we moved on to a back to the board game, which involved the minimal pairs that I had written on the board, and two students, one with a back to the board, one facing. I circled the word. They had to say the word, they had one chance, and their partner had to write down what they heard. We did this a few times and swapped partners so that they were checking their productive skills and their receptive skills. So this was another fun activity that checked that they could hear it and that they could make the sound. Once we completed that, we then I gave them the opportunity to look for or to think of other words with B or V. Not minimal pairs, but just any words. So they found words like above, believe, boy, veil, etc. So they had a minute to do that. Then they were able to and then I asked them to make questions, so using those words. So they made a list of questions. Once they had 5 questions and I checked they were okay, then they were to mingle and they had to ask their questions. So of course they were using their productive skills in a more personal manner, it was more personalized, and they were also, the other people that were answering the questions had to use their receptive skills to know what the word was to be able to answer the question. The students enjoyed the activity. They did say that one of them found it difficult. I was quite surprised because she had problems making the B sound, not the V sound, which I thought was a little different. But I could see that they physically could make the sound, they could make the distinction. I imagine in future that they'll still make the mistake. It's not going to happen overnight, of course. but I think they'll be able to self-correct or peer-correct because physically they know how to make the sound. So I think it'll take a little bit of time and practice. We'll continue practicing it, but the students did seem to be able to hear and see the difference in that activity. So let's see what it's like when it's out with pronunciation focus. Okay, thank you.